Well, greetings and thanks for joining us for another episode of Lightbulb Moments, episode number 178. We're live most Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central Time, and we are also available on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. I'm Tom Qnity. I'm host and curator of Lightbulb Moments. A light bulb moment is a sudden realization, enlightenment, or inspiration. And remember, you can't start a fire without a spark. So hopefully you'll get a spark today. At Qnity, we're here to go from what's confusing, overwhelming, and complicated to a clearer and simpler path towards prosperity, whatever that looks like for you. To prosper, remember to manage your currencies, the three currencies we have in life: attention, time, and money. And thanks for spending your precious time with us today. Today, we have two sets of guests. We have the one and only Robert Reed from Ergo Styling Tools. And we also have members of the Randolph family, including Scott and Austin Randolph of Randolphs Salon in Michigan. We're going to have two great conversations with these special guests today, so it's a double-packed episode. We still will end at the normal time, somewhere between 45 to 50 minutes after the hour. We love hearing from you, whether you submit a light bulb moment to your own by the chat, email, or comment. Again, we love to hear from you, so please use the chat today. Or if you're listening to this in the podcast or watching on YouTube, certainly use the comments because that really helps fuel the conversation. Our last guest was Jane Morehouse of Jane & Company and the Beauty Industry Report, PR specialist, and also has a beat on the industry, especially with the beauty brands, manufacturers, distributors, and publishes something called the Beauty Industry Report about 6 times a year. And it's a great publication. We recommend you subscribe to it. So check out that as a recent episode. Again, Jane was our last guest. Here we get to see a headshot of Jane. So Lightbulb Moments is proudly sponsored by Lightheart Sanders as well as Qnity. So thanks to them for being a sponsor of this forum. Our calendar coming up here. We do have some programs coming up in Austin, Texas on March 2nd. We have our Succession Masterclass on March 3rd. We have our Profit Workshop. And then on March 4th, we have our Growth Workshop. We also are starting a new group of owners that we will work with. That's subject to an application and an intent. So this is a way to fast track your succession strategy and come up with an actual plan. We also have our execution workshop in Minnesota in April, and then we have the Phil coming up on May 18th through 20th in Austin, Texas again. Also, watch for more information. We're starting to schedule meetings with participants of the 2024 P&L study. The findings are rich and fascinating, and you'll start to hear more about this in upcoming sessions, as well as you'll probably see in some things published in the industry. But what's most important is we get to participants, and we're working on that now to go through their own P&L benchmark report. Monday noon, we just had a great Monday noon this particular week, and we do one a season. That is a forum to bring hot topics to the forefront for our community. And then we also have function forums. The next one's coming up is February 24th, and we systematically go through the 5 functions: marketing, education, operations, finance, and human capital. And these are deeper dives into those with guests. And then the Phil, our theme this year is all about play, gamification, tactile learning, and how we can go from knowing to doing with a fresh and new approach. So this is play, a play with an element of sophistication, and super excited about the theme. Don't forget about Money 02, which is a podcast by Aaron, and that really goes through some amazing money stories. My light bulb moment last session really came out of conversations with Jane. We covered a ton of different topics, trends in the industry, what she's seeing. And so I'm going to keep my light bulb moment this week very short because what I want to do is immediately get to our guests because we've got a jam-packed episode. So let's now bring to the mic and the camera we'll bring to the mic and the camera the Randolphs. We have Austin Randolph and we have Scott Randolph. And regrettably, but understandably, we're missing Mary today, who had some other obligations, but it's good to see you, gentlemen. How are you?
How are you, Tom?
Lovely. Thank you.
So a little bit about Randolph. So 3 locations in the great state of Michigan, 3 thriving locations. Scott and Mary Randolph are the founders, a husband and wife. We have Scott on the right and we have Austin on the left. Austin is son. Okay. So we're going to be talking about some blood and business, family, blood and business.
Ooh, I like that.
When I saw you guys, both of you were in your car, and in the back of the car, I knew exactly what you guys were doing yesterday. You just did. So explain to the group where I caught you yesterday, and Scott, what was in the back of your vehicle?
We had a wash machine in the back of my Yukon, and I was transporting it from one location to another location. We have backups in case something goes down, and Austin was meeting me at that location so we could literally swap the stackable units out. And while we were waiting for the tech service to come out and fix it, that could take up to a week. We have these interchangeable pieces so we can move as seamlessly as possible.
Yeah, it's funny. We used to have a guy that would like work for cash to help fix them, and he disappeared. He moved to Florida or something. So I normally drive a pickup truck like a Silverado for this exact reason, but that is currently smashed and getting fixed. So my little rental couldn't fit it. So we had to, you know, I have a running joke with Amanda Hare that our lives are run by broken washing machines and dryers.
Pretty much.
I can relate with that. I recall the days. Well, our conversation is really part of a series, and it's really a series about multi-generational family businesses, of which you fall under. And everybody has their own story, and I really love to dive into these stories. You guys have a good one. So, Scott, I asked you, did you encourage or discourage your 2 boys? You have 2 sons, you have Austin and Lucas. You had some interesting thoughts about encouragement and discouragement. Let's talk about that a moment.
Well, yeah, when you asked me that question, and the answer was both. Yeah, because sitting around, that's one of the things when is most people that are I'm sure watching this is sitting around the kitchen table growing up, and if they have children, we talk about a lot of different things that happen through the day, and we have a different perspective, I think. When you have your own company, you have a tendency to share that. So when the kids were coming along and they both we wanted them to go to college. So both of them got their degrees in business. And as they were doing it, they were working within the company. We were purposely trying to see whether they had an aptitude for it or that'd be something they wanted to do. So we absolutely did try to encourage them because the truth be told is an exit strategy is your specialty, right? It's one of your specialties. It's a difficult thing to sometimes, depending upon your size, to figure out how to execute those things. We had a natural legacy that we were hoping to, to pass it down to, but we also didn't want nepo kids coming in and them not to be respected or followed or representing themselves in a certain way within the company. We wanted them to have their own identities and have it so that people would want to take part, people would want to exist with them, people would want to follow them. So we could always would talk about the good and the bad.
Yeah. And I think that is so smart. And you said something interesting, Scott, that from your perspective, I mean, you hope that they would take a look at it because your perspective, it was like a once in a lifetime opportunity to be part of a company like this. And it's very different than just entering the workforce and getting a job. So you really saw this is a legacy business, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we're fortunate enough if where we're at in our locations, we were hoping that they would come in and they would also look if they wanted to expand. And we were fortunate enough to be able to be the bank to help fund that expansion if they wanted to do that. So we both knew that another opportunity like this would not show itself in the world, to the best of my knowledge, to him at that time, to either of our sons. And our hope was that they would take advantage of it. And our hope was that they would be able to have an entire different lifestyle, or achieve some things that we never could dream of, and it would give them and all of our team members an amazing home, an amazing opportunity, something that they wouldn't be able to possibly get at another salon company.
Austin, over to you. So I remember the first time I met you and your brother Lucas. And I also remember the phone call I got from Scott or Mary. I think it was you, Scott. It was a long time ago. Scott, we barely knew each other. 2 to 10 was just starting. And you asked if you could bring your two sons, and their age was a record low. I think both of you were still in school, right, Austin, when you came to the first 2 to 10?
I think that was Chicago, and I think,
Chicago?
yeah, I don't think I could. I think I was below 21, so I might have
No,
been,
you're both 17 and 18, something like that.
yeah, I might have been 19, 20, something like that, because I remember you wanted me to be super involved in the young professionals thing, and I had to very, very politely tell you I don't have any time. I'm sorry. They have me at the front desk, and I'm 14 credit hours. I have zero time.
So so you got your degree in business management, right?
Correct.
And then but you had a bunch of other jobs before you worked at the desk. Why don't you describe some of the jobs you had?
Sure. Well, I think it's the only reason that I work in this role is because of everything I did before, kind of leading back to what he said, right? Encouraging and discouraging. Because anytime I come to any industry events, people pull me aside and people ask, how do I get my kid involved in this, right? I mean, because for a lot of people, for everyone who's on this or watching this afterwards, in this industry, it's not just your business, it's like your baby. There's a passion that goes into the whole thing. So of course you'd rather it stay, go to blood. Um, but I think I learned so much about the real world. My mom made me talk to our next door neighbor when I was 13 to get a job caddying at a country club. That was a horrible job. I worked at Dairy Queen for 2 years. Again, another career where I was the only guy there. And God, then I worked in a warehouse, did a bunch of like different landscaping stuff. I had lots of jobs that people consider uh, hard. And I think that put me in a position where when they needed help on the front desk and I started doing this, I looked around, and even if people, everybody complains about work and, oh, this is something always goes wrong. Um, I felt like I was the only person in the room looking around going, guys, this is pretty good. I gotta be honest with you. Like I don't stink, my back doesn't hurt. This is amazing.
So so Austin, you've been a partner now for how many years? And just to be clear with you, I probably should have said this earlier, that you are a shareholder in this company. And that was part of was it a 5-year plan?
5-year transition.
Mhm.
So, so you're an owner, and uh, what does it feel like to be an owner now?
Weirdly enough, I'll I'm not going to give a whole long thing about it, but weirdly enough, not any different at all. Uh, per what he said, I mean, literally every single night growing up, every hamburger helper and conversation is just work stuff between mom and dad. So we I firmly believe that there was not a magic switch that flipped. I mean, everybody's brain finishes developing at about 25 or whatever, but I really feel no different at all. And I think maybe that goes maybe reinforces that this was a good idea. It's something that just felt it felt like it came about organically from my first couple of years working here. And more than anything, the final percentage in the deal we worked out finishing was, it feels like a formality more than anything.
Hmm. Scott, you said you made some conscious decisions about how you would treat Austin while at work. Let's talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows he's our son, right? So the worst thing that we could do is to show him favoritism or to put him in a position where he was shielded. So when he first came in, I went to one of the directors. I said, "You're his direct report. You're his boss per se. All instruction is going to come through you. It's not going to come through me." And because what was more important, we established right off the bat our relationship between his mom and I, and his brother was involved at the time too, by the way. His brother was doing the same thing, and he spent some time doing it. And then he said, "Listen, this isn't for me." So he went off and got a master's degree in psychology. So he's a therapist. But Austin wanted to stay. And what we did is we wanted to make sure that everybody saw him for him. One of his biggest concerns was always that he'd be our kid or he'd be, thought of as us. And I said, so what we did was we purposely put people between us and him because our relationship was always more important than the money or the business. It was always blood was more important than money. If it became down to it, we would just take care of it. But really, what our goal was to have other people direct him. Now, the truth be told, I was very hard on him. I didn't embarrass him, but I was very hard on him. I let all the directors know. I let all the people know. I was very hard on him, and a level of expectation was here for him and in here for other people. And I did that intentionally. And my intention was to get it so people wanted to support him. They realized that, instead of being resentful of him, they were pulling for him to succeed. So that was all intentional, that they were really wanting him. They wanted to follow him. They wanted to be associated with him. They wanted to be around him. They wanted to see him succeed. So it really worked. I mean, they just started naturally going to him after a period of time because they didn't see him as a threat. They saw him, as he said, it was a very organic transition. He was not held or and there was anything gifted to him. It was clear he was working very, very hard and being there day and night for all circumstances. And so he earned the respect. And by that, it made the transition easier, and the team really grabbed to him.
This is a very weird conversation to sit here and listen to, by the way.
How did you feel when he was so hard on you, Austin?
Oh, well, what else is new, Tom? No, it's just one of those. It probably my set of expectations were different than everybody else's. I knew that going into it, the deal I signed up for. So
yeah, so you dealt with it. Yep.
Yeah.
Communication, I think, Scott, you talked about a little bit, is communication amongst the three of you. Talk about that for a moment.
Well, fortunately, we have a team around us. We also have Stephanie, who you met many times, and she's lovely, and she is coming into and being a great support of the company. And the company has changed quite a bit since she's came on in the last 5 years. She's really helped to evolve that, and as we transition and figure out what that looks like for the next 10 years, right? But with Stephanie and Austin taking on a role, it's allowed Mary and I to, the word isn't step back, but it is to evolve and look at things a little bit differently. Then we have a whole lot of directors that report directly to us and them. So it's allowing us structurally, and we've been working with your company and how to organize all our thoughts and all our pieces. So it's allowing the truth be told, there's days I show up and I'm like, okay, am I in anybody's way or what am I supposed to do? You know, because a lot of these things used to be my job, and I walk in and they're kind of doing my job, and I'm looking, going, okay. So it's a really neat feeling, and it's amazing to see that they're thriving, and amazing to see that they're doing really well with what we've been able to give them. And now it always makes me think, so now what do we do? What's next? You know, what do we take on? Where's the opportunity? So I'm pleasantly shifting my mind over from chasing all the details to um, what's next.
It's kind of forcing you into a different frame of mind.
It's forcing,
Yeah.
being, being forced into all kinds of.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
No, it isn't. It's an interesting challenge. It really is. It's an interesting challenge, and I'm very, very fortunate because at the end of the day, as I said, this is my son. This is our son, and there's nobody in Stephanie that's here with us, and there's nobody we trust more. So trust in the people you have, it goes. It cannot be understated how much that factors in.
Yeah. Austin, I've really watched you grow up, and you mentioned that you were part of 2 to 10. We had the emerging leaders group, and you are someone, in spite of having a full load, you went the extra mile and were part of emerging leaders. We had some competitions. You were probably in it about 3 or 4 years. So you paid your dues along the way, pal. I mean, I saw that you weren't just going through the motions, that you dug deep, and I want to congratulate you. And it's great to see the maturity of you. So now,
Like most things, the idea of it was more intimidating than the thing itself.
well, that's a good one. The idea of it's more intimidating, the act itself. I like that one. That might be a light bulb moment today. But I like the blood first, business second. I think that's really a very nice way to really phrase, family business. I mean, how do you really make sure that the family part of the relationship, whatever the dynamics are, husband, wife, father, son, mother, son, whatever, is how do you make sure? So do you have any sort of rules in terms of times you'll talk about work or won't talk about work or places, or is it pretty much just open game to talk about work whenever amongst you guys?
No, we don't really have any formal rules like that.
I think we're very close, right? I mean, Mary, I'm unfortunate like you. I mean, Mary and I have been married for 38 years, and we have a very close relationship. So where she can sense what I'm sensing, and I can sense what she's sensing, and we both have the emotional intelligence to give space to that. There's lots of times when it comes to him that I'll know that unfortunately, he and I are more alike than not. So there's a lot of times Mary will buffer or get into, step into that role to help to self-support it. Because at the end of the day, there's two things that have to happen. First and foremost, he has to know that we love him and I love him, and that's more important than anything. Second is we still have stuff that may need to get done, even if you're a little mad at me. So it's just us recognizing that and knowing that we care about each other, we love each other, and we're family, and that will always be more important that when it gets done. And then when I'm wrong, I just simply say I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's I just moved like 5 weeks ago or something like that. And the house that I bought is, I'm not kidding, 1.3 miles away from their house. It's a really great neighborhood. I like it. But this may not shock you, but Mr. Randolph and I have been both accused of having big personalities.
No.
So no. And does that turn into an issue sometimes with communication? Well, yeah. And my poor mother usually ends up being the juror in between us. But we there are no formalities as far as between 6 and 8 p.m. no talking about work. That we don't have anything like that. But I think we've all communicated so frequently for so long that it just kind of works out when people get mad at each other. I am not the quickest to admit that I was wrong and say sorry. Neither is he. But it'll happen. We'll figure it out. It's one of those things where it's funny when somebody asks questions about this because you're forced to think it through, like, oh, I guess how does that work? And I think even just the idea that we're having a hard time putting it into words how it works, it just kind of happens.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've always enjoyed about all of you is there's a very healthy sense of humor. And yes, Mary is a little bit of the I could totally see where she would be the buffer. She has an element of sainthood to her. Uh,
Hmm.
is what I might say. Yes. So, all right. Hey, before we wrap up, Scott, you used the term Nepo baby, and I know what you mean, but I don't want to
Yeah.
say that everybody knows what you mean. What do you mean by Nepo baby?
What a child, Nepo baby, meaning a child of the owner, or somebody who's appears to be entitled, or simply got a position because they were born with the right name. So we tried to make sure that he wasn't looked at in that light as best we could, and that he earned his stripes on his own. Yes, he is our son. However, he will carry double the water and keep up with anybody. So that was important for everybody to know uh, how we saw it.
Yeah. Nepo, for our listeners, is shortened for the word nepotism. All right.
Yep.
So nepotism is family or relationship favoritism, whatever. So, all right. Well, listen, thanks to both of you. And it looks like we've got some $1 million light bulbs going to you, gentlemen. Will that be your first one? I can't, have you been a guest before?
No, no,
Hey,
there's one in the cab. We have one.
he's you already have one?
Yeah, we have one.
Oh, I already have one at home too.
I think, yeah, you both have been guests on here before, but
Yeah.
what a great topic. We are really digging deeper into this. So I was on with members of the Neal family. We're soon going to be on with the Passage family. We have the Lehman family coming up, Shaw, and I just think it's really important to all our listeners here that we're very intentional in bringing this type of information to the community because the next generation, everybody talks about the next generation, but this is really next generation in action. The practicality, a little bit behind the curtain in how multi-generational family businesses work. And so Desmond just put a note in here. Speak of another family business, as we've got Desmond and Sebastian from Yellow Strawberry. So it's just great to highlight, and both of you have been great friends and partners. Scott, did you have something else?
Yeah, there's one other thing is you got Stephanie, who you met, she's really part of the team. She's joining this company, and the truth be told is we were wanting to find him a partner long term, because that's a lot to take care of this for one individual, even with the infrastructure, management structure. It's a lot. So my hope is that everybody finds, first of all, that they have somebody like our son, if they're in a position to do that. Second is that they find somebody who is not their opposite. Like Mary and I are so contrasting that that's what made us work. Our hope is that Stephanie and Austin will be able to take this company and do what we move forward. So that's what I want to make sure I mention too, is it's not going to be a one person job. They're going to need a Stephanie and Austin.
I have one thing. I swear to God, I'll keep it brief. Just because so many people ask me about it whenever I'm at like an industry thing, I cannot emphasize enough how important it was to go and have other jobs before doing this. And that's something that we talked about when I was like 17 or something like that. Uh, and I was a terrible high school student. So I had plenty of time for college, did the community college thing and then whatever. But the importance of going out and experiencing the real world and how making an educated decision and not overthinking it, uh, it was crucial to me because I will overthink everything put in front of my face. But if I have information like, oh, well, I know I don't, you know what you don't want to do. right? It starts to narrow things down. So make an educated decision. It helped me.
Good stuff. Great shares. Thank you for that. Gentlemen, thanks for being great guests. Congratulations on the work you're doing. Shout out also to Stephanie and Mary. And thanks to all of you listening today. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Lightbulb Moment. Thanks again to the Randolphs. And thanks again to Robert Reed. Signing out. Bye, everybody.